Hello everyone, and welcome back to Mythology Revealed. Today, we're going to take you into the world of ancient Greek mythology to hear a story filled with adventure, wisdom, and divine intervention. This is the legendary tale of the hero Jason, whose fate is tightly linked to the mythic Golden Fleece, involving a struggle for the throne, the interference of gods, and countless challenges. Together, we will explore how Jason embarks on a journey of revenge, joining gods and heroes on a thrilling adventure. If you're curious about mythological stories, don't miss out. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, share this exciting story with your friends, and leave a comment telling us which character or adventure plot in the story you like the most. Now, get ready to step into this mysterious story with us. The story we're going to tell today is a breathtaking adventure in ancient Greek mythology, a struggle filled with wisdom, courage, and divine interference in the fight for a throne. This story takes place in the kingdom of Iolcus, located in present-day Volos, and at that time, the ruler was King Cretheus. However, the fate of the kingdom takes a dramatic turn after the king's death. After King Cretheus passed away, the throne should have been inherited by his legitimate son, Ezin. However, poor Ezin was deprived of the throne by his half-brother Pelias, who seized power. In order to eliminate all threats, Pelias began to hunt down Ezin's descendants. He found some of Ezin's relatives and friends, executing them one by one. The only one he showed mercy to was Ezin's mother, Tyro. Her pleas moved Pelias, and he decided to spare her life, imprisoning Ezin instead. As a result, Ezin's life was saved, but he was no longer able to reclaim the throne that was rightfully his. However, the story doesn't end here. Ezin later married Alcimede, and they had a son, the future hero Jason. To protect the newly born Jason from Pelias's attempts to kill him, Alcimede hid the baby and pretended in front of others that the child had already passed away. She even performed a fake burial and secretly sent Jason to Mount Pelion, asking the wise and kind-hearted centaur Chiron to raise him. It was Chiron, this wise and compassionate centaur, who helped Jason grow into a brave and intelligent young man, paving the way for his future adventures. As time passed, Pelias remained fearful that one day Jason would return to challenge his throne. One day, Pelias received a prophecy from the temple, which told him a man wearing a sandal would be the one to change his fate. This prophecy caused Pelias to panic, and he remained ever vigilant against this mysterious person. When Jason turned 20, he decided to return to Iolcus and reclaim the throne that rightfully belonged to him. Following the guidance of a divine messenger, he disguised himself as a man from Magnesia, wearing a leopard skin and carrying 2 spears. With determination and courage, he embarked on the arduous journey. Along the way, he reached the Inoris River, where he encountered an elderly woman. The woman begged him for help in crossing the river, and without hesitation, Jason extended a hand. Little did he know, this elderly woman was actually Hera, the mother of the gods, who was hiding her true identity to assist Jason in seeking revenge. She wanted to punish Pelias for having killed her stepmother in her temple. During the crossing, Hera also provided Jason with a clever omen. While carrying her through the muddy waters, Jason accidentally lost one of his sandals. This seemingly small incident would later become a significant clue in the unfolding of his fate. After they crossed the river, Hera promised Jason that she would offer her protection and help him on his path of revenge. Filled with gratitude, Jason continued on his journey back to Iolcus. When Jason finally arrived at the kingdom, Pelias saw him among the crowd and immediately noticed that he was only wearing 1 shoe. This reminded him of the prophecy he had heard earlier. His anxiety grew, and a sense of fear filled him, as he began to realize that Jason's return signified the impending doom of his own fate. Jason then confronted Pelias in person, demanding the throne that was rightfully his. At this moment, Pelias, trying to appear calm, told Jason that the gods had commanded him to complete a difficult task, to travel to the distant land of Colchis and retrieve the Golden Fleece. Pelias explained that this was a task entrusted by the soul of Phrixus, and that if Jason succeeded in this dangerous mission, the throne would be returned to him. Pelias swore by Zeus that if Jason completed the task, he would restore the throne, but deep inside, he believed that the quest would lead to Jason's demise. The origin of the Golden Fleece legend begins with Athamas, the king of Boeotia, who initially married the cloud goddess Nephele and had 2 children with her, Hela and Phrixus. However, Athamas later fell in love with a woman named Ino and drove Nephele out of the palace. Ino developed a hatred for the 2 children and, in her cruelty, caused a famine and forged a prophecy, claiming that only the life of Phrixus could appease the disaster. The poor Phrixus and Hela were faced with such threats, and their lives hung in the balance as they faced this peril. Fortunately, with Zeus's help, Nephele sent a magical golden ram, which not only had wings but also wore a fleece of pure gold. The ram, named Chrysomelis, took on the task of protecting the children and helping them escape their predicament. With the assistance of Hermes, the messenger of Zeus and the guide of souls, the magical ram flew with Hela and Phrixus towards safety. However, as they flew over the strait between Europe and Asia, Hela lost her grip and fell into the sea, never to return. This tragic event led the strait to be later called the Hellespont, the Sea of Hela. Though Hela lost her life, Phrixus successfully reached Colchis, where he was welcomed by King Aetes. To show his gratitude to the golden ram, Phrixus dedicated it to Zeus and gave its golden fleece to King Aetes. The king hung the precious fleece on an oak tree in the sacred grove of the god Ares and set a terrible fire-breathing dragon to guard it. The dragon became the legendary guardian of the Golden Fleece, turning it into a mysterious treasure that would attract the attention of countless brave warriors. The legendary ship Argo carried many adventures and acts of bravery. The ship's name comes from its builder, Argos, and it was one of the largest and most magnificent ships in ancient Greece. According to legend, it was built with the guidance and assistance of the goddess Athena, using a special type of durable wood. This would not only keep the ship from decaying over time, but also ensured the ship's stability and durability. The Argo had 50 oars, allowing the crew to row efficiently. The most distinctive feature of the ship's bow was a piece of wood carved from the sacred tree of Dodona. This piece of wood was not only beautifully decorated, but it also had the ability to predict the future, making the ship even more mysterious and powerful in the myth. Although the Argo was ornately decorated with intricate patterns, the ship itself was remarkably light, allowing the crew to easily carry it on their shoulders for transport. This design not only demonstrated excellent craftsmanship, but also laid the foundation for the heroes' later adventures. Once completed, the Argo became a symbol of pride for the heroes who boarded it to embark on their perilous journey to Colchis. The Greek heroes finally reached the mysterious island of Lemnos. This island, located on the western coast of Asia Minor, is rich with mythological significance, as if sealed in time, holding a tale full of wrath and love. The women of Lemnos had once fallen out of favor with Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. As punishment, they were cursed to emit a foul stench so unbearable that their husbands fled to Thrace in search of new partners. Angered and abandoned, the women decided to exact their revenge by killing every man on the island. The only survivor was King Thoas, who was saved by his daughter Hypsipyle. Thus, Hypsipyle became the queen of Lemnos. When the heroes of the Argo arrived on the island, the women initially planned to keep them isolated outside the walls to prevent the outside world from learning of their strange situation. However, after much discussion, they decided to welcome the heroes warmly. The heroes were treated with great hospitality and spent a joyful time on the island, even fathering children with the women. These children later became known as the Minions. A strong connection also developed between Jason and Hypsipyle, and they had twin sons, adding a romantic touch to their foreign affair. However, during this period of enjoyment, Hercules, the steadfast hero, did not indulge in the pleasures of the island like the others. He chose to stay aboard the ship, waiting for his companions to finish their leisure time. As days passed, Hercules could no longer contain his impatience and forced his companions to leave the land of temptation and pleasure, urging them to continue their adventure. The most tragic event of the Argonauts' journey occurred on a small island near the coast of Phrygia, inhabited by the Dolionians. The islanders had no particular conflict with the Argonauts, and in fact, King Cyzicus treated the heroes with kindness due to a prophecy that warned him not to make enemies of them, as it would bring disaster. Thus, the Dolionians welcomed the heroes with great enthusiasm. While the heroes were staying on the island, they were suddenly attacked by a group of terrifying six-armed giants. These giants charged from the nearby land with immense force, attempting to destroy the Argo. Fortunately, Hercules and several other heroes, who were on guard aboard the ship, displayed exceptional combat skills. They quickly fought back, defeating the giants in a fierce battle and ultimately emerging victorious. The Dolionians, witnessing the heroes' bravery, deepened their respect for them. However, fate is often cruel. That night, the wind suddenly shifted, blowing the Argo back to the Dolionian island. Due to the cover of darkness, neither side could immediately recognize the other, and the Dolionians mistakenly believed the Argonauts were enemies returning to attack. Without clarifying the situation, a fierce battle broke out in the confusion. In the midst of this misunderstanding, Jason accidentally killed King Cyzicus. When the first rays of sunlight illuminated the island in the morning, both sides realized that the entire conflict had been based on a tragic misunderstanding. Unfortunately, this tragedy could not be undone. The Argonauts were filled with guilt and mourned the king's death with the Dolionians. For 3 whole days, the islanders were in mourning, and the queen, overwhelmed by sorrow, ultimately chose to end her life, adding even deeper grief to what should have been a peaceful encounter. The heroes of the Argo next arrived at the land of the Mysians, planning to make a brief stop on this land. However, this stop unexpectedly sparked a commotion. After they disembarked, Heracles' servant Hylas went to the riverbank to fetch water, only to attract the attention of a local nymph. Enchanted by Hylas' handsome appearance, the nymph suddenly pulled him into the water and kidnapped him. This sudden event shocked everyone. Fortunately, nearby Pholo, not the legendary Cyclops, heard Hylas' cries for help and immediately informed Heracles. Heracles and Pholo quickly set off to search for Hylas, but while they anxiously searched, the Argo sailed quietly away, leaving the group behind to face the dilemma alone. In the end, Heracles returned to the ship, filled with disappointment and anger, while Pholo decided to stay in the Mysian region, where he founded the city of Chios and became its king. This event deeply affected Heracles. There is another version of the story that claims Heracles did not return to the Argo, but instead chose to walk alone to Colchis, beginning a new and different adventure. The next stop brought them to the kingdom of the Bithynians, a land of vast territory, but ruled by a particularly cruel king, Amycus. His father was the sea god Poseidon, and his mother was a Bithynian nymph. Such divine parentage made Amycus incredibly self-confident and a figure of terror to the people. Amycus had a unique rule. Anyone who entered his kingdom had to engage in a life-or-death duel with him, boxing. The loser would die on the spot. This brutal practice had been going on for a long time, and countless innocent travelers had perished as a result. When the heroes of the Argo arrived in this land, Amycus immediately issued a challenge, demanding that they send a champion to face him. This challenge was not a mere contest, but a fight to the death. Faced with such a provocation, no one hesitated. In the end, Polydeuces stepped forward, ready to face the deadly challenge. The two engaged in an intense battle. Iolcus had great strength and divine lineage, but Polydeuces showed no fear. With extraordinary courage and intelligence, he managed to gain the upper hand in the fight. After delivering a powerful blow, Iolcus was struck in the ear. Receiving a fatal wound, the king collapsed and died on the spot. With the conclusion of this battle, Iolcus' tyranny came to an end. With the death of Iolcus, the heroes arrived at the island of Phineus, whose king, Lycos, had long suffered from Iolcus' incursions. Grateful for Iolcus' death, Lycos warmly welcomed the Argonauts and rewarded them handsomely. While they were resting on the island, the heroes decided to venture out and gather some straw. It was then that an unfortunate tragedy occurred. Idmon, the son of Apollo, was gravely wounded by a wild boar during a hunt and eventually succumbed to his injuries, dying on the island. This event left everyone deeply saddened and filled with regret. They then arrived at Salmydessus, the home of the Thracian king Phineus. Phineus was no ordinary king. He possessed a prophetic ability granted by Apollo, enabling him to foresee the future and predict various fates. However, this very gift became the source of his downfall. Unable to control his revelations of the divine secrets, Phineus repeatedly exposed the mysteries of the future, angering the god Zeus. As punishment, Zeus blinded Phineus and sent the dreadful harpies to torment him. Whenever Phineus attempted to eat, the harpies would swoop down upon him, snatching away his food and ruining it completely. For Phineus, this situation not only caused immense suffering but also reduced his life to misery. When the Argonauts arrived at Salmydessus, they felt deep sympathy for the punished king and decided to help him escape this endless torment. The heroes set up a feast to lure the harpies. Sure enough, when the food was laid out, the harpies arrived as usual to snatch the food. But this time, the situation was different. The winged borads, Calais, and Zets immediately drew their swords and flew into the air, quickly chasing the birds. Their speed and strength were astonishing, and they managed to drive the harpies away, allowing Phineus to finally eat in peace and no longer be tormented by the birds. Phineus was deeply grateful for the help the heroes had provided. In return, he decided to assist them by unraveling the mysteries of their future journey. Using his divine prophetic abilities, Phineus revealed crucial information about the challenges ahead. First, he told the heroes how to successfully navigate the perilous clashing rocks, which would be the greatest obstacle they would face on their journey. Additionally, Phineus foretold the places they would pass through and the difficulties and dangers they would encounter along the way. The most treacherous part of their voyage was crossing the terrifying clashing rocks, also known as the Symplegades. These two towering, massive rocks would violently crash together in the sea, creating a deadly space where many ships had been destroyed. Located in the Bosphorus Strait, the clashing rocks had been the site of numerous shipwrecks. According to Phineus' prophecy, the heroes could only succeed in crossing this perilous stretch by finding the right moment to pass. Following Phineus' advice, the Argonauts released a white dove, which skillfully flew through the narrow gap between the two rocks and successfully passed through the clashing zone. When the rocks slammed together and separated once more, the heroes quickly rowed their ship, using the moment when the dove had passed to propel themselves through the danger zone. Just as they were about to be crushed by the rocks, the goddess Athena appeared. She placed her left hand on one of the rocks, and with her right hand, she gently pushed the Argo, helping them break through the deadly barrier and safely past the clashing rocks. After successfully navigating the rocks, the Argo entered the Black Sea. At this point, the divine power of the goddess Hera guided them to the island of Diameter. On this mysterious island, the Argonauts encountered 4 naked, helpless men who had been ravaged by a shipwreck. They introduced themselves as the sons of Colchis and Chiron, named Acastus, Phrixus, Melas, and Silnius. Jason welcomed them warmly and helped restore them to health. In gratitude, the four men guided the Argonauts toward Colchis and advised them to hide their ship to avoid detection by the enemy. While on the island, the heroes witnessed a peculiar burial custom. Many corpses were wrapped in ox hides and bound with iron chains, then hung from trees. This was part of a local funeral ritual, which added to the eerie and mysterious atmosphere of the land. Finally, as they entered the city of Colchis, the goddess Hera once again used her divine powers, conjuring a thick mist to help Jason and his companions safely reach the palace. The most important part of the journey was how Jason obtained the Golden Fleece, and this was all thanks to the help of Medea, the princess of Colchis. With her mysterious magic and wisdom, her fate was forever changed by Jason's arrival. The story begins in the palace of Colchis, where Jason unexpectedly meets the beautiful princess. It turns out that the goddess Hera had persuaded the goddess of love, Aphrodite, to send her son Eros to shoot Jason with a golden arrow, causing Medea to instantly fall deeply in love with this Greek hero. When King Aetes learned of Jason's purpose, he did not soften his heart. Instead, he decided to set up a series of daunting challenges to deal with this invader who came to seize the Golden Fleece. He demanded that Jason complete 3 nearly impossible tasks. First, he had to plow the fields with 2 fire-breathing bulls. Next, he had to sow dragon's teeth into the soil and defeat the giant warriors that sprang from them. Such challenges were almost impossible for anyone to accomplish. However, the power of love drove Medea to act without hesitation. She betrayed her father and decided to help Jason. She gave him a bottle of magical ointment and taught him how to defeat the terrifying giants. Next, he sowed the dragon's teeth into the ground, and from them sprang a group of fearsome giant warriors. However, Jason did not directly confront the giants. Instead, following Medea's advice, he threw a stone into their midst. The giants, thinking one of their own had attacked them, began to fight and kill each other. And in the end, Jason was able to defeat all of them without a single fight. Although Jason completed all these challenges, King Aetes still had no intention of giving up the Golden Fleece. Instead, he began plotting how to destroy Jason and his companions. However, Medea, aware of her father's intentions, decided to act again. She secretly took Jason to the mysterious forest where the Golden Fleece hung, and using her magic and song, she cast a spell to put the dragon guarding the fleece into a deep sleep. Seizing this opportunity, Jason quickly plucked the Golden Fleece from the tree and, with Medea, fled back to the Argo. The two of them quickly set sail, escaping Colchis. When King Aetes discovered that his daughter had betrayed him and fled, he was consumed by rage and vowed to do whatever it took to capture Medea. He sent his son Absyrtus to lead a large group of Colchian warriors on a relentless pursuit of Medea. However, this pursuit was doomed to fail because Medea had already devised a plan for her escape. To evade her father's army, Medea, along with the heroes of the Argo, followed the prophecy of the seer Phineus and chose a different route. They sailed into the river Istros, beginning a tense battle of wits with their pursuers. The chase did not end there, though, as Absyrtus refused to give up, pursuing them until they reached a solitary island in the Adriatic Sea. At that moment, Medea set her plan into motion. Using her deep knowledge of her brother, she cleverly laid a trap. Medea, pretending to be concerned for her brother's safety, lured Absyrtus into an ambush carefully set by her and the Argonauts. In the end, Absyrtus was killed. The island was subsequently named Absyrtides, or Susac, in remembrance of Medea's bloody scheme. Some versions of the myth even describe how Medea not only killed her brother, but also dismembered his body and threw the parts into the sea, ensuring that her father would never be able to find his son's remains. This act of brutality caused her father immeasurable grief, and in his fury, King Eets abandoned his pursuit of his daughter to search for his lost son's remains. However, Medea's actions did not go unpunished by the gods. Her brother's murder sparked the wrath of Zeus. As the Argo sailed through the river Eridanos, Zeus, angered by Medea's treachery, unleashed his thunder and summoned fierce winds, making it almost impossible for the Argo to continue its journey. The heroes knew that this storm was no mere accident. It was a warning from the king of the gods regarding Medea's crimes. The sacred tree aboard the Argo, which could foretell the future, gave them a clear directive. The only way to escape Zeus' wrath was to seek out the sorceress Circe and have Medea atone for her sins. If they failed to do so, they would not escape the divine punishment. So the fleet had no choice but to continue their journey, sailing through the Rhone River and into the vast Mediterranean, facing endless waves and storms. They passed the Stochades Islands and then sailed past the island of Italia, what we now know as the island of Elba. After several days of arduous sailing, they finally reached the legendary island of Gaea, the home of the sorceress Circe. Circe, who was both the sister of Eets and a powerful goddess of magic, had already sensed Medea's arrival. After learning of their purpose, she did not immediately turn hostile. Instead, she prepared offerings and livestock, conducting a ritual in honor of Zeus, asking for atonement for Medea's sins and to cleanse the bloody wrongs she had committed. Circe knew that only such a sacrifice could appease Zeus' anger and restore peace. After Circe's help and the ritual, the goddess Hera once again intervened to protect the Argonauts, allowing them to continue their voyage. From that point on, their journey became relatively smoother, but Medea's crimes had not truly been atoned for. Her fate was already intertwined with the gods' grudges, and this deadly adventure would forever be part of her inescapable destiny. When they sailed to a beautiful island, they did not anticipate that this paradise-like place hid a deadly danger. The inhabitants of the island were the sirens, mysterious creatures with the body of a bird and the head of a woman. They would lure passing sailors with their mesmerizing songs. Their voices were so sweet and enchanting. They seemed to come from heaven itself, irresistible to anyone who heard them. But once sailors became entranced by the siren songs, their ships would inevitably crash against the rocks, destroyed, and the crew would perish in the sea. As the Argo drew closer to the island, the sirens began singing their soft, lily-like melodies, stirring the hearts of the heroes. Their voices seemed to guide the men into a dreamlike state, making them forget the boundaries between life and death. The crew aboard the ship was entranced by the alluring tunes, almost losing their minds as they prepared to steer toward the shore, walking straight into the sirens' trap. However, in this moment of peril, one hero remained clear-headed, Orpheus. Holding his lyre, an instrument capable not only of producing beautiful melodies, but also of shaking the heavens and earth, Orpheus knew the danger of the siren song all too well. He began to play his own tune, a melody that reverberated across the sea, gradually overpowering the sirens' seductive voices. Orpheus' music was so powerful that it rendered the sirens' allure ineffective, and the crew's senses slowly returned to them, regaining their clarity of mind. Yet, not all could resist the temptation. One hero, named Pollux, was overwhelmed by the desire to hear the siren song. Unable to control himself, he leaped into the churning sea. When the others saw this, they feared that Pollux had drowned, lost forever to the ocean. Grief-stricken, they decided to continue their journey, reluctantly accepting that Pollux might never return. Fortunately, Pollux did not perish. He was rescued by the sea goddess Aphrodite and taken to the island of Lilybaum. Though Pollux survived, for the rest of the heroes, their encounter with the sirens remained a tragic and unpredictable moment. After a long journey, the heroes arrived at the island of the Hyaceans, ruled by King Alcimonius, who warmly welcomed them. At the same time, the Colchian warriors, who were pursuing Medea along a different route, also arrived at the island, following the same trail. The tension between the two sides was palpable, and it seemed as if an intense battle could break out at any moment. At this crucial moment, King Alcimonius stepped forward, deciding to intervene and mediate the impending conflict. He proposed to act as a neutral party and offer arbitration to resolve the dispute. During the ceasefire, the king expressed his thoughts to his queen. He argued that if Medea were still an unmarried maiden, she should be returned to her father and subject to the Colchians' judgment. However, if she had already married Jason, then their marriage should not be torn apart, as marriage is sacred and inviolable. This message was passed on to the queen, who then relayed the king's thoughts to Jason. That night, Jason and Medea held their wedding in a secret cave. It was not only a pledge of their love for each other, but also a symbolic embrace of their shared future. This simple yet deeply emotional ceremony undeniably altered their destinies. The following morning, when King Alcimonius made his decision, he declared that Medea would not be handed over to the pursuing Colchian forces, and that the Argonauts would be provided with the necessary protection to continue their journey. The journey of the Argo reached the island of Crete, which was guarded by the powerful and mysterious guardian, Pelias. Pelias' body was entirely made of indestructible bronze, and neither swords nor arrows could harm him in the slightest. He was like an invincible giant, patrolling the island 3 times a day, ruthlessly monitoring every ship that approached the island. When he saw the Argo drawing near, he immediately hurled massive rocks at the ship, attempting to destroy the unwelcome guests. Faced with this nearly invincible giant, the crew of the Argo felt trapped and helpless, seemingly with no solution. However, at this critical moment, Medea showed her wisdom and courage. According to different versions of the myth, one version states that Medea used a mysterious potion to drive Pelias into a frenzy, causing him to lose his awareness of the outside world. Another version mentions that Medea promised Pelias that if he allowed them to pass, she would use magic to grant him immortality. Regardless of the version, Medea successfully deceived the mighty guardian. In the moment when Pelias relaxed his vigilance, Medea swiftly pulled out the bronze spike from Pelias' neck. This spike sealed his blood vessels, and once it was removed, Pelias' blood spurted out like a fountain. The immortal giant was finally unable to resist, and as his blood poured out, his body slowly collapsed, clearing the way for the Argonauts to continue their journey past Crete. Eventually, the group safely returned to Iolcus, where Jason, with the legendary Golden Fleece, approached King Pelias, ready to return the precious artifact. However, Pelias was incredulous that Jason had succeeded in completing what seemed to be an impossible task. He could hardly believe that this was real. Yet, this reunion was not a celebration of victory, but instead was overshadowed by the dark shadow of tragedy. During Jason's expedition, his father, Ezin, had already fallen victim to the persecution of Pelias. Pelias harbored an unfathomable hatred toward Jason's family, and eventually, Ezin, unable to endure the pain any longer, chose to end his life by committing suicide. He drank bull's blood mixed with poison, opting for such a tragic conclusion. Even more unfortunate, Jason's mother, upon learning of her husband's death, chose to hang herself. This chain of tragic events ultimately also affected Jason's young brother, an innocent child who did not survive the bloody conflict and was killed by Pelias. Faced with the deaths of his parents and brother, Jason's heart was consumed by a desire for revenge. At this moment, Medea reappeared, becoming a crucial part of his revenge plan. She was determined to help Jason seek justice for the innocent deaths and make Pelias pay for his wicked deeds. Using her wisdom and powerful magic, Medea went to Pelias' palace and, targeting his daughters, devised a clever scheme. Medea demonstrated her magic to Pelias' daughters by cutting up an old ram into small pieces and boiling them in a pot. Then, she added her potion, transforming the pieces of meat back into a lively lamb. Medea assured the daughters that if they followed this method, they could restore their father's youth and bring him back to life. Trusting Medea completely, the daughters, believing in her words, were persuaded by her to chop their father, Pelias, into pieces and place him in the pot. However, Medea did not add the potion as promised. Instead, she allowed Pelias' body to boil in the pot, and in the end, Pelias did not return to life and had no place to be buried. Although Jason successfully avenged himself and rid the world of the evil Pelias, he did not regain the throne. The reason was Pelias' son, Acastus. This prince, instead of being grateful for Jason's actions, cast him and Medea out of Iolcus. With no other choice, Jason and Medea fled to Corinth, where they lived relatively peaceful lives for the next 10 years. As time passed, King Creon of Corinth, recognizing Jason's status, decided to marry his daughter Glauce to him in an effort to strengthen his ties with the hero. Despite having spent many difficult years with Medea, Jason chose to act in gratitude and accepted the marriage proposal, divorcing Medea without hesitation. This act deeply hurt Medea and set the stage for her revenge. Medea, unwilling to accept being abandoned, devised the most horrific way to take revenge. She gave Glauce a beautiful gown, which appeared to be a wedding gift, but had been treated with poison. When Glauce put on the elegant dress, intense flames suddenly erupted, engulfing her. Glauce struggled in the burning flames, but in the end, she died from the unbearable pain. When King Creon saw his daughter perish in such a way, he rushed to her aid. But he, too, fell victim to the curse of fate. The same flames consumed him, and he died alongside his daughter. However, Medea's revenge did not end there. In her heart, Jason's betrayal had left her grief irreparable. Heartbroken and desperate, she decided to murder their two sons, dragging these innocent lives into her spiral of vengeance. After the two sons died at her hands, Medea's heart became completely numb. She took her chariot, pulled by flying dragons, and left Corinth, seeking refuge in Athens, far from everything she once had. Jason, although he had achieved his revenge, lost the protection of the goddess Hera, who had once given him strength due to his betrayal and ingratitude. Eventually, during one of his voyages, as he rested at the stern of the Argo, the aging ship, which had fallen into disrepair, collapsed. Unable to escape in time, Jason was crushed by the collapsing ship, ending his life, one filled with peril and betrayal. We followed Jason through many thrilling adventures, and although he obtained the Golden Fleece, he never reclaimed his rightful throne. If you enjoyed today's story, remember to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more mythological tales and historical adventures. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and share, so more people can explore these legends filled with wisdom and courage. See you next time, as we continue this adventurous journey together.